Pam, it is so good to see you, and thanks for jumping on the call. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. It's great to see you too.
All right, so give me a quick introduction. I know who you are, but look, for the audience, tell us who you are. Few seconds, what your role is, maybe the amount of people that you're working with in that space, and then what's your question?
Okay. So I am Pam Cusick. I'm Senior Vice President at Rare Patient Voice. And at Rare Patient Voice, we connect patients and caregivers with all kinds of research opportunities. So my role is primarily to work with clients and find clients who need to hear the patient voice. And that includes pharma companies, device manufacturers, universities, government agencies, a wide range of individuals and companies that are developing products and services who really need patient input. So that's primarily what I do. We have a small but growing team. We're about 20 or so people, regular full time and some part time people who work regularly for us. And then we have a team of part timers who help us with data entry and things like that. So a little over 20 people. My question is, how can we motivate remote workers I know everyone went remote during COVID, but we've always been remote. So some of our team has never met. We will meet for the first time at an annual retreat that we have, or a retreat, our first annual retreat, which will be next January. But I know everyone's doing their job, and we're growing and doing a fantastic job for our clients. I want people to love what they're doing and feel like this is more than just a job, that
Mhm.
it's a career and it's a passion, because we really are helping patients and we really are making a difference. Um, and sometimes it's hard to know if people are really motivated because you're not sitting next to them. You're not talking to them when you're going to get coffee or popping out for a quick lunch. So that is my question, and I would love to hear what you have to say.
Okay. All right. Motivation. So this is a big one, right? And there's a lot of different facets and different things we could go into. I mean, we wonder if our kids are motivated, right? I mean, it's and our spouses and ourselves and let alone team members. And I think a lot of this is going to stem from the same type of idea. And first of all, it comes down to um, so there's multi-generational type things you're working within.
Okay.
And you're also talking about the idea that we are all different people and we're motivated by different things. Some of us are intrinsically motivated and it comes really natural where it's just within us. And
Mhm.
we find that, science says that, people that are intrinsically motivated tend to be easier motivated, right? They have more passion, they have more drive, they have more grit, right?
Mhm.
People that are extrinsically motivated mean external forces are the things that motivate them,
Mhm.
rewards, discipline, things like that.
Mhm.
Those people, it's easier for them to fall off that
Mhm.
wagon, right, of motivation, because they need those constant reminders of rewards or discipline to kind of keep them motivated. I look at that with my own kids, and we can kind of look at the same thing. Now, let me ask you before we dive into a specific tool and a couple tools that I want to run you through. Um, where are we talking about the generational thing? Is it a generational thing you're looking at, or is it a personality type thing? Because we all have different personality makeups as well. So, what do you think?
Well, we do have different generations. I mean, for sure. So that could be part of it. Um, and different personalities. So I think you're right. Some people are, on the team are probably more extrinsically motivated, and others are intrinsically motivated. So it's not, and I think, it's not that I see that we have a problem with it.
Mhm.
That, I mean, we seem to be doing well as a company and moving forward. I just think it's just important to be aware of the fact that, there could be people falling off here and there that I don't realize that it's happening because we're not together. And I want to make sure that, you invest a lot of time and effort in your team, right? To make sure everyone's trained and knows what they're supposed to do. You don't want to waste that effort and lose good people because you didn't know that they weren't feeling fulfilled. So um, yeah, I don't have a particular personality issue or something specific that I'm thinking of. It's just more I'd like to be proactive about it.
Good. I love that. So proactive versus reactive,
Hmm.
right? Intentionality versus that accidental behavior
Hmm.
is what we're talking about. I love hearing that. Okay, so let me run you through a couple of things. So I'm gonna we can talk about a few different tools here. This is a platform called Giant. It's the Giant OS. And this is a tool that I use to facilitate a lot of coaching groups that I do within organizations and externally as well. And the premise is, it runs through really bite-sized tools and trainings that give people information and empowers them to be able to lead properly, like know themselves, love themselves,
Hmm.
lead themselves, right? And then we can know others, love others, and lead others well. And that's the whole premise of this. Now, I'm going to flip over. This is just a quick selection of all the tools that we have in here. One thing I start off with is called the performance diagnostic. And this one is just a quick check. Okay. So, first of all, I always want to check you first.
Hmm.
Okay. So, let's start with Pam. Let's start with us.
Okay.
So, first of all, um, ask you a couple questions, and you don't have to get too explainy on this stuff, right? But do you feel like their role is clear inside the organization? Now, I don't mean that, yeah, we gave them a job description. It's in the handbook exactly what they're supposed to be like, right? But what role are they supposed to be playing based on who they are? Are
Hmm.
they a person that is really intuitive about the ideas and the collaboration aspect of other people and bringing people in? Is that the role they need to play on the team? Or is the role the more they are the innovators? They are like out of the box thinkers. Or is their role the like tasks, like spreadsheets and check boxes and reliability and on time, on budget? Like, are they doing the thing that they were built to do? Or is their role clear as far as what they need to be doing in the organization?
So I think, so we have different groups and they would fall into different kind of categories based on what you had just mentioned. So some are task driven. So project management is a good example. They have a project that comes to them, they have to do certain things, in a certain time, and then the project is completed. While others, say on our patient advocacy team, have to be a little more like creative and thinking of how can I reach this patient group, or how can I connect with those types of patients. So each group is a little bit different in the way that they perform. However, there are levels of, within a project management role where you do need to be creative. You need to, think outside the box, where, something might not be as easy to find within, let's say you're looking for patients who have edema, but they could have a lot of different conditions. Well, you have to be creative and try to, and figure out where those patients might be in our community. So some of those lines are blurred. I do believe that people within each group and team do know what their roles are. I think that there are, you know, what I would like to think or see is that people can think beyond the box, the task that they have at hand, and try to think of new and different, maybe better ways to do what we do. Because we just because we've been doing it for a long time doesn't mean that we are doing it the best way possible, right? So I believe that for our organization, they are clear and we have defined for them, and I believe that they know what their roles are.
Okay. So the next step is, so you said something in there that you're like, well, I would like them to think out of the box. Like, we've been
Mm-hmm.
doing things for a long time and maybe there's a better way,
Mm-hmm.
right? To do some of these things. Do they know that expectation? Has that been communicated to them?
I think, at different points, yes. Is it something that we regularly communicate? I don't think that that's, I think because we're, as everyone. We're so busy all the time. We have, hundreds of projects running, all at the same time. It's more of, well, I have to do these things, get back to my client, send this out. There's, the perception that those things need to get done. Where's the time for creative thinking, I guess. I mean, and I don't know that people aren't doing that. But again, it's part of that remote worker thing. Like, I don't know how everybody is kind of approaching their tasks, in a creative, or, whether they're being, creative and thinking outside the box, or they're kind of just following the bouncing ball. I don't really know that, because I don't see what they're doing every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be something that, in a fast paced environment, we become reactive, not responsive, right?
Mhm.
Reactions, two things come together and a reaction happens.
Mhm.
Responding is two things come together. We stop, think, breathe, and
Mhm.
respond,
Mhm.
right? Intentionally. And those two things are different. And we find ourselves reacting a lot in certain positions as opposed to responding. So if that's something that is a value within Rare Patient Voice, and that's something you really are trying to drive home, is that principle, then they need permission to do that, right? Some we call them voices inside your team are going to be really talented at that. And some other ones are not going to be that talented at that. They don't even like it. They don't even want to do that type of work.
Right.
Right. So,
Sure.
so, ask them, it's like, is this something that you like? Is this something you would like to do, is think outside that box? Right. I know we're harping on the outside the box thing, because I was just picking out one thing you said, but that raises engagement, right? Giving people that permission, if that's their gift, to do something like that, and be like, oh, you're okay with like me thinking, like, that gives them permission to be who they were designed to be. And if we can do that, that raises their engagement, that raises their sense of purpose, because their purpose isn't necessarily the specific task they're working on that day,
Right.
right? Their why and their purpose is much bigger than that. And if they can fulfill that through being who they were designed to be, then all the better. Right. So let's go to the next one. So that's just an idea to think about that role clarity, and are they doing what they are supposed to be doing, and what their big picture is as far as who they are. Leader. Now, have they been received appropriate training with support and challenge? Support meaning, here are the tools, here are the resources, here are the things you need. Here's the, I'm here for you, and I'm setting time aside to make sure we're mentoring you. And that's the support piece. I'm your cheerleader. I'm for you. You can trust me. The challenge piece is, you know what? I'm going to make you do hill sprints, right? I'm going to make you do things that aren't so comfortable sometimes, because I know they're going to make you better. So I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to set expectations. I'm going to expect you to meet them. I'm going to be following up with you on this specific date, right? Is that support and challenge piece there?
Yes. So support, certainly we have team leads, or directors of the different divisions, and we support them, and in turn they support their teams, and make sure that they have the guidance and structure that they need to get their job done. And the challenge piece, is where we've done for a couple of years. We have people set their goals for the year, and some people's goals are like stretch goals, and they want to exceed expectations, and so on and so forth, and others goals are less, maybe challenging. So maybe we need to look at making sure that everybody has those kind of stretch goals, and something that they're looking to achieve, so that then, and come the end of the year, they feel like they've accomplished something. They haven't just done their job because we've, given them a task and they've supported it, but they've done something, kind of bigger than they thought they could.
I like that. And this is, and they're not just necessarily job oriented goals, right? I would encourage you to help them, professional development goals and other things that help them develop themselves as people. This is becoming more and more important for younger generations, right?
Mhm.
How much are you investing in me?
Mhm.
Will depend on how much I in turn feel like I want to invest in you. You
Right.
know,
Sure.
so that piece is going to be really important. We've got to have a really good balance of support and challenge. Because if we support too much but don't challenge enough, then we
Mhm.
become kind of passive in
Mhm.
our leadership of these individuals, because we're just kind of like, we don't want to ruffle feathers. We don't want to, we want to be sensitive. But if we challenge too much, don't support enough, then we become dominators and we lead by fear and manipulation, which isn't necessarily right either.
Either.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So if we, so when we get through these and we say, yeah, their role's clear. Yeah, we give them support and challenge. Now we look at them. Do they have the competency to do this job? Right? Are they, it's the reason they're not motivated. The reason they're not performing is because they feel discouraged, or they don't feel a lot of hope in their ability to achieve this thing because of their own competency. Do you think there's a competency issue?
Not, I don't think so. So here's a good example of that. We had a woman on our team who moved from one division to the other, and I think that she could do the other job, but I don't think it was where her heart was. And so it was more appropriate to work on another team where she was working more with the patients and so on and so forth. So, that's a single case. But I think, as far as I know and believe, the people who are on, each team do have the competency to do their jobs. Um, some people I could see moving into other roles in other teams. Again, not because they can't do the job that we've hired them for, but because they have other skills which might really benefit the other teams. So I would say yes, they do. They do have the competency. I don't think we have anyone who I think is kind of miscast in a role. Um, but I do see that there are people on all of the teams who could conceivably work just as well on a different team, or maybe that would be where their, like I said, where their heart is, and what it might be something to, in the future, looking at how people can move into different areas and so on, because I don't think that right now there's a kind of a progression within teams, and the teams do work together on things, but I think that, I don't think people think a lot about, I wonder if there was a job opening over here, if I might move into that role. And we do have a new HR person, which is wonderful. And she, whenever we have a posting, she advertises it internally first, which I think is a great idea, and, gives people the opportunity, if they're interested in moving around the company, to, kind of see a different side of things. It gives them the opportunity to do that.
Ah, good. That's really good. And then you spoke about the next one, right? Their heart, right? Is their heart in it? So maybe they have the competency, maybe you give them support challenge, maybe they've led, their role is clear, but they just don't have the heart. It's not in line with the organization's values. And that's where you're like, well, this one person that wasn't totally there, she moved to this other thing where she's doing something that motivates her a little bit more, right? So you found kind of that, and by passing that job description or that job opportunity around inside the company first, you're giving that people that opportunity. So I right on. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so um that last piece is where we generally find the motivation piece,
Mhm.
right? Is, well, they could do all this stuff, but it's like, I don't know if they're really the right fit for us because of they're just on a different path. And it's nothing against them. It's nothing against us. It just isn't the right fit for them. And it's not really probably right fit for us either. And maybe it is, they're just in the wrong team,
The wrong team, right?
like you
Yeah.
said, right?
Mhm.
Um, Now, when we look at the performance side now, we use this as a quick tool, right? Just say, okay, which one of these do you think it is? Is it us? Is it them? And what do we do about this? Okay.
Mhm.
So if we looked at any of this and we say, okay, so that's great, Scott, cool. I can kind of do a little gut check on that piece of it. One of the other things that we look at is this idea of the pit of despair, okay, and developing others
Mhm.
is something that is, let me see if I don't know if it's in here. There it is. Okay. So the pit of despair is something that we talk about with teams a lot. Okay. So we have certain people that feel like they're doing their job and they're doing it fine. And then other people that are like discouraged and they don't feel a lot of hope and they feel not really intentionally led by others. They don't feel like they're mentored well. They kind of feel like they're on their island by themselves because we're in this remote environment now. And there's people that really need people.
Mhm.
And there's other people who are like, I don't care if I ever see anybody ever again. Right. So it's kind of like we've got this balance that we're trying to juggle a
Mhm.
little bit. And since we've been in a remote world, you know what? Our water cooler talk has gone down the tubes.
Mhm.
Like some of us hate water cooler talk. It's like, I don't care about your weekend. I don't care about your dog. Like, I don't care. I just want to get my work done. Right.
Mhm.
There's other people that are like, oh, how was your weekend? What'd you do? I heard you had a birthday. And it's just like, yeah, can we. So now we've gotten into Zoom. Our meeting starts at 11 o'clock. We get right to it, right? And we burn, 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 and it's 11:30, and then we're off, right? And it's just like boom, boom. And we forget that sometimes we talk between our meetings. Sometimes we walk to the break room and we get a donut, and well, we cut off a piece of the donut so we don't look like we're eating the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I never do that. So right. And so we get there and we forget that we used to have this water cooler talk. Well, how many of us are spending time doing that for those that need it? And honestly, about half the population really needs that.
Mhm.
The other half is like, I don't care, you know? But the thing is, how do we find a delicate balance to do that? Now, that could be leading people in this remote world into this pit of despair. They don't
Mhm.
feel a lot of hope. They don't feel really engaged in. They don't feel invested in. They don't feel like people care about them. They're like doing a good job and people like their gift, but they don't know if they know anything about them.
Mhm.
Right. And it's kind of like this personal thing that's happening. So, one thing I really encourage people to do is if you have people on your team that are maybe not motivated, maybe they're discouraged, there's something driving that.
Mhm.
And that's a bigger discussion that you could have. One proactive thing, or actually three proactive things that you can do as a leader is do these three things: time, vision, encouragement. And
Mhm.
to get people out of this pit of despair, because here's also the problem is that when people are down in the pit of despair, they find other people in the pit of despair and they're like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
This job, I don't know if this job is really me. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if it's me either. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, did that person mentor you? It's like, no. Did that person? No, they didn't mentor me either. So they all start griping and it's toxicity, and they're starting to like, just be down there together.
Mhm.
So one thing I say is, hey, you as a leader, people are in the pit of despair. It happens all the time. Sometimes we're in the pit of despair. If you build both informal and formal time with them, so I want you to think about somebody, Pam,
Mhm.
that you can do this with. I want literally, like right now, I want you to think, is there one person that comes to mind that you could do this with?
Sure.
Okay. You have one person in mind.
I do.
Okay. I want you to schedule regular interval meetings with them if you don't have them already.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you have those already with this individual?
I do.
Okay, awesome. So those formal times that
Mhm.
you're set up, maybe it's weekly, maybe it's twice a week, maybe it's every month, whatever it is, you have scheduled meetings with them to check in, say how you're doing, right? Um, sorry, that's formal meetings.
Mhm.
Informal meetings are the, hey, Janice, how are things going? Like I was just driving home, decided to check in, see how you're doing, right? Or is it coming by your office, or is it,
Mhm.
giving you a quick text or whatever, a Teams meeting, chat, whatever it is. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm just randomly checking in, just seeing how you're doing. It's not, maybe it's scheduled on your calendar. It's not on theirs
Mhm.
though. Maybe
Okay.
it's like you have a schedule if you need that. Cool.
Mhm.
But that informal investment in them. All right. Is that something you could do?
I can.
Okay. Vision. Okay. This is where you start to kind of get into where do they see themselves,
Mhm.
reminders of where you saw them, why you hired them in the first place, or why they're on this team in the first place,
Mhm.
reminders about where you see them going,
Mhm.
the place for them. Some people get so stressed and bogged down that they start to get in the moment, and that's all they can pay attention to, right? They've got these like blinders on. So, what we really need to do is say, whoa, 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 back up. Okay. Don't worry about that fire right now. We'll get to it. But let's think about where you're at, where you were, where you're going, short term and long term vision. What do you see for yourself?
Mhm.
And this is what I see for you as well. Okay. When's the last time you did that with this individual?
Probably a few years ago.
Okay. So these are those good like exercises, right? To bring that back up and to say, hey, let's check back in. Let's see where let's life changes. Do you have different aspirations for yourself now?
Mhm.
And then encouragement. And when I say encouragement, it's specific, not generic. It's not, hey, Pam, good job on that presentation,
Right.
which to some people feels good, especially if you never get any praise at all.
Mhm.
It could really feel good to get that kind of praise.
Mhm.
But I mean this. I mean, hey, Pam, really nice job on the beginning of that presentation where you set up the argument for why we need to do the specific thing. I haven't really seen it like that before, and it caused me to rethink some things. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
You hear the difference?
Yes, definitely.
Now, if I am spending formal time with you, informal time with you, reinstating vision with you,
Mhm.
and I'm giving you specific encouragement that helps you feel heard, you're going to come out of that pit. And if you don't, then it's not me as a leader that's pushing you down there, keeping you down there. It's yourself and your own mentality. So that person would probably need some extra coaching. But as far as you're concerned as a leader, if you do these three things, it's going to be very difficult for them to stay down there.
Mhm.
Do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. And also not to bring other people into the pit with them, which
Yeah.
we don't need that. We don't need multiple people in the pit.
No, no, we don't need multiple. And
We
sometimes
just
as
want
leaders,
one person in the pit.
yeah, I know, I know. And sometimes as leaders, I say this, I say like, how many times have we like kicked people down in the pit because we don't want to mess with them at that time? We're just like, can you go down in the pit for a little bit? Like, I just want to take care of this myself. And you're kind of in the way. You're like, your incompetencies messing with me. And I just need to get this job done. So can you wait down there for a while? And they're like, I guess so, you
Right.
know? So we as leaders need to be careful that we're not discarding or dismissing or removing people from both that authority and responsibility piece that we need to give them to help them feel fulfilled in their jobs.
Mhm.
um, and so is this realistic for you to take on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly I can see the the couple things that I don't do or have not done, that informal kind of check in and sort of the short and long term, where do I see you, um, would really be helpful to make someone see, not that they don't feel valued necessarily, but see a trajectory and some place to go, when in their short and long term.
And when you look at this too, do you see the difference between being accidental and being intentional
Hmm.
using something like this?
Hmm. Yeah.
um, that's the point, right? Is intentionally. It's we can be the my door is always open leader,
Hmm.
which is great, right? My door is always open. If you need anything, right, I'm here. But for me to come to you and go, hold on, we're going to spend some time together. I'm going to make sure that I mentor you appropriately. I'm going to make sure you feel invested in. I'm going to talk to you about the vision of what I see for you. And I'm going to be that encourager. I'm your cheerleader. I'm here for you. And we're going to crush this thing, right?
Hmm.
That person, if they leave, it's not because you didn't,
Didn't do your job right.
right?
The door, my open door policy type of thing, I think is not necessarily beneficial to a lot of people, because when you're, you are a leader, you're, in a leadership position. I think sometimes people don't want to bother you, or they don't want to, I don't want to take up his time, or I don't want to take up her time. Um, and quite honestly, then those whatever issue or thought or creative idea someone had will just sort of fester, because they have no place to put it, right? And I feel like it's, I think to say you have an open door policy is great, but I think the intentionality of something like this is much going to be much more effective, because I can imagine that there are people who don't, come to me directly for one reason or the other. Not because they don't want to work with me or talk to me about something, but there is that perception, oh my gosh, she's so busy. And I don't want that. I don't want that to happen.
Right on. Because we have a lot of what we call plus leaders. Plus leaders are ones that they add value, right? That's the door of my own, always open kind of policy thing. Multiplication leaders are the ones that invest time and effort into the people that go after them, right? Intentionally to impress upon that person the type of leader that is different. That's a different type of leader. And when we experience that in ourselves, that helps me want to be more like that. That's multiplication, right? And that's what we want to be as a multiplying leader. And the more we are intentional about that, the more we will do that. And people, here's the goal, Pam. Think about that one person in your life that was an amazing mentor, amazing coach, amazing parent, amazing sibling, amazing boss that you could say had a huge impact on you, created liberation in your life, empowerment and opportunity. You got one person in your brain?
Gosh. Yeah. I
Okay.
have not.
Lots. So that's awesome. So
Mhm,
that's what I want you to think about, that person that like pops in your brain, right?
mhm,
I want you to be that person
mhm,
in 20 years for somebody else. I want them to look back and go, if I ask them that question, they go,
mhm.
Pam.
Yeah. Right.
That was Pam.
I like
Right.
that.
So that's amazing. And so I'll shoot you some of this in an email. So
Great.
it's you can have it. But I really appreciate you. Was this helpful?
Yeah, very helpful. I think it's wonderful and some things that I haven't really thought of. I mean, a good example is that, scheduling the time, a formal every 2 weeks or every week or whatever is great. But I think that informally checking in is going to add another level of, and not just to the people in the pit. I don't think that's really what, because most of, the people, who we're working with are not, I would not consider being in the pit of despair. But it would be nice to do this for them now before they ever got there, right?
Yeah. We don't want to wait
Not
until they're
want
in the
them in
pit of
the
despair.
pit.
Right?
Right?
Get it.
Absolutely
Let's
not.
be intentional about it. So that's really smart. I appreciate you and hope this was helpful. Thanks for again being on. And I hope this helps other people too.
Yep, absolutely. I'm sure it will. And thank you for your insights. And I look forward to putting them into practice.